All right, President Trump is just not slowing down, and some people in the media and the left, they are having a very hard time dealing with the fact that he moves so fast. As I like to call it, it's kind of moving at the speed of Trump. Now, this was the president's 21st visit to a foreign country in just 18 months. And after today's one-on-one meeting with Vladimir Putin, the two leaders held a joint press conference. Let's take a look.
I'm here today to continue the proud tradition of bold American diplomacy. From the earliest days of our republic, American leaders have understood that diplomacy and engagement is preferable to conflict and hostility. Nothing would be easier politically than to refuse to meet, to refuse to engage, but that would not accomplish anything. As president, I cannot make decisions on foreign policy in a futile effort to appease partisan critics or the media, or Democrats who want to do nothing but resist and obstruct.
Now, both leaders, they also addressed the big elephant in the room, and that was election interference. Let's watch this.
The probe is a disaster for our country. I think it's kept us apart. It's kept us separated. There was no collusion at all. Everybody knows it. People are being brought out to the fore. So far that I know, virtually none of it related to the campaign, and they're going to have to try really hard to find somebody that did relate to the campaign. That was a clean campaign.
Now, of course, this meeting comes just days after the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein announced the indictments of 12 Russian agents who were accused of hacking the DNC and the Clinton campaign chairman, John Podesta, even though the DNC, they have refused to turn over their hacked server to the FBI. When will they turn that over? Where is that server? Now, President Trump weighed in heavily on this very issue during this joint presser. Let's take a look at this.
Let me just say that we have two thoughts. You have groups that are wondering why the FBI never took the server. Haven't they taken the server? Why was the FBI told to leave the office of the Democratic National Committee? I really believe that this will probably go on for a while, but I don't think it can go on without finding out what happened to the server. What happened to the servers of the Pakistani gentlemen that worked on the DNC? Where are those servers? They're missing. Where are they? What happened to Hillary Clinton's emails? 33,000 emails, gone, just gone.
Exactly. What happened to all of those things? And tonight, many on the left, they want you to believe this alleged interference is a shocking, unprecedented turn of events. But we all know that Russia election meddling is not new at all. Now, remember, ahead of the 2016 presidential election cycle in 2014, the House Intel Committee Chairman, Devin Nunes, he issued a very stern warning about Putin's belligerent actions and attempts to denigrate the United States and, by the way, impact our 2016 election. And we also know, you can go way back to 2008, we know that Russia hacked into both the McCain campaign and even the presidential campaign of Barack Obama himself. And despite this, in 2016, when Hillary Clinton appeared to have a firm lead in the polls, just before the election, it was President Obama who laughed off any notion that American elections could possibly be tampered with. How wrong he was. You may remember this.
There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections. There's no evidence that that has happened in the past, or that there are instances in which that will happen this time.
Interesting. That's when he thought Hillary was going to win. Now that Trump is president, after nearly a decade of playing down Russian interference and its impact on our elections, the left is in total freak-out mode, trying desperately to connect Russia hacking to the Trump presidency. This is a total left-wing conspiracy, a fantasy. This is the witch hunt. Every single report, every investigation into our election show absolutely no votes were changed, no more altered in the 2016 election. Not a single vote. And by the way, it's important to point out every major country in the world engages in election interference. As Senator Rand Paul put it, we all do it. And this includes the Clinton campaign. In fact, if you're looking for Russian interference, look no further than Hillary Clinton and the DNC. In 2016, they actually paid, through a law firm that they funneled money, Fusion GPS. Yeah, then they got a foreign entity, a foreign spy by the name of Christopher Steele. He put together phony opposition research, the now infamous dossier, which has been debunked, filled with lies, Russia propaganda, and all paid for by Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party to manipulate you, the American people, in the lead up to the 2016 election. Nobody in the media seems to care about Obama's attempted interference in the last Israeli election against our #1 ally in the Middle East, Israel, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And by all accounts, today's meeting, well, was productive and very important. As we all know, there are a lot of serious issues between the U.S. and Russia, but predictably, even before this meeting took place, yes, the Destroy Trump, Hate Trump media, they were already hoping and predicting failure. You see, success for Donald Trump is bad for their agenda, especially in the lead up to the 2018 midterm elections. Take a look.
We've never had a summit with a KGB spy master, someone who has, completely studied and examined Donald Trump, and a president who spent the weekend golfing and has not been preparing.
What do you think is going through Putin's mind, and how is he likely to be interpreting President Trump's behavior?
He's delighted. He's absolutely delighted. He wants to throw the United States off balance, and he wants to divide the United States with its allies. Mission almost accomplished.
This does not seem like a president who's really going there to really hold Putin accountable.
I just don't see how we can expect anything to come out of this and why Donald Trump is forcing the issue so much.
And it gets even worse. Take a look at this despicable cartoon. Yeah, published by the so-called paper of record, the New York Times opinion page on Twitter early this morning. Take a look.
Do you have a relationship with Vladimir Putin?
I do have a relationship with him, and I think he's done a very brilliant and amazing job. He's put himself really as, a lot of people would say he's put himself at the forefront of the world as a leader.
Now, that's your corrupt mainstream media. Pretty disgusting. Now, naturally, the anti-Trump hatred, the hysteria continued after today's meeting. Look at this. Former CIA director, the guy that was a former communist, turned CNN, paid hack, John Brennan. He actually tweeted out, Donald Trump's press conference performance in Helsinki rises to and exceeds the thresholds of high crimes and misdemeanors. It was nothing short of treasonous. Not only were Trump's comments embellished, he is wholly in the pocket of Putin. Republican patriots, where are you? John, let's address you for a second here. What have you done on Obama's watch to prevent Russia meddling? What role did you play in all this? Now, you have just undermined this country, and frankly, you should be ashamed. Let's take a look at this corruption.
We are under attack from Russia. If there were physical missiles, like during the Cuban missile crisis, Americans would be in the streets and protesting and asking for the president to protect us. These are invisible missiles.
It's time for Americans to be out on the streets and to speak up about the democracy that we hold dear, the values we hold dear, and what we expect of the President of the United States.
You have been watching perhaps one of the most disgraceful performances by an American president at a summit in front of a Russian leader, certainly that I've ever seen.
As you can see, it was all a predetermined outcome. It didn't matter what happened at today's meeting. Your mainstream media just blind hatred for President Trump, and they long predetermined that anything the president does is terrible. It's devastating, apocalyptic. And at this point, they're just a broken record. Now, on this show, we're not afraid to report that what the mainstream media will not report, and we've been proven right. We're not blinded by this same pathological hate of all things Donald Trump. Look at the economy. Look at the progress in North Korea. And while the left always acts like the sky is literally falling because Donald Trump actually wants to discuss safety and security with nuclear weapons, nuclear proliferation, Syria, Iran, and a lot of other important issues, including interference. By the way, meeting with Putin is that bad? We all know the truth. U.S. diplomacy is in good hands, in spite of what they tell you. The president has never been afraid to walk away from a bad deal. He's never been afraid to call out world leaders and hold all of them accountable. As we saw, he was critical of the British government's execution of Brexit. And by the way, he rightly called out many of our allies in NATO. Why? They're not paying their fair share for their own national defense, even criticizing the German Chancellor, Angela Merkel, and her country's lucrative energy deal with Vladimir Putin's Russia, which creates a dangerous dependency on Russia in energy, which is the lifeblood of their economy. After all, if the West is so worried about Russia, well, why would they be willing to give him billions and billions of dollars to make Russia rich again? Instead, the president is now rightly pushing Germany to kill its oil and gas deals with Russia and get their energy from us in the United States, which would also mean millions of high-paying career jobs for Americans. Now, this move would not only benefit the United States, it would also absolutely wreck Russia's economy. Now, Putin should be very concerned about that possibility, as it would literally destroy Russia's economy and probably destroy him politically. We'll have more on that in a moment. Now, the president has been even more forceful with our enemies. Look at North Korea, little rocket man, fire and fury. Our button works, yours doesn't, and it's bigger. Now, despite what the media predicted, there's a real progress on the Korean Peninsula because the president's peace through strength strategy is working. It always works. Appeasement doesn't work. Bribing dictators doesn't work. Now, there hasn't been a single rocket fired in months. American hostages, thank God, they have come home. One nuclear site, in fact, has been dismantled and shuttered, and the process continues to this day. And this is something else that the mainstream media will never tell you. President Trump has been incredibly tough on Russia. This is something they won't report. Under his administration, the U.S. issued sanctions against roughly 200 individuals and entities related to Russia. Other stinging economic sanctions against Russia have also increased, and U.S. forces on the ground in Syria inflicted heavy casualties on even Russian soldiers during a skirmish earlier this year. An enormous embarrassment for Vladimir Putin. And the United States has been busy arming Ukraine with lethal weapon systems, but the media, they're not going to focus on any of this. Instead, it's Russia, 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 collusion, 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 if they're not talking about Stormy. It's all the time. It's 24/7. Now, with this as a backdrop, the president moves forward with what is very important diplomacy. And as the leader of the free world, President Trump, he must meet with the leaders of Russia, China, North Korea, and others, as long as he's not sending $150 billion in your cash and other currencies. Now, our friends, our foes, they know where we stand. They need to hear it from the commander-in-chief. There is, as you say, a new sheriff in town. Let the president negotiate deals that Obama was not capable of. And specifically, Russia must stop coordinating with the Iranian regime. They must stop supporting President Assad in Syria. And yes, they need to stop, meddling in anybody's elections and be held accountable for their actions. Now, the years of weak and feckless leadership under Obama are now over. No more cargo planes full of cash. And as President Trump frequently says, a good relationship with Putin and Russia, when you're not trying to bribe them, is a very positive thing for the country. However, under President Trump, any hostile or aggressive action by Putin's regime will be and should be met with strength, not appeasement, not bribery, not cash, not kissing the rings of dictators. And while the mainstream media and American left, as they peddle their conspiracy theories, well, the administration is now putting forth some truth and some precedent and some fact. And by the way, Reagan proved it to all of us. Peace through strength works. Diplomacy is important. Trust but verify. And the American people's safety and security, frankly, is dependent on all of this. Our kids, our grandkids, this matters.